This is the story of how I became the toy boy who outplayed everyone.
The rain fell like silver knives on the dusty streets of Lagos. I was just another invisible boy shivering under a torn jacket, hoping someone, anyone, would notice me. Life had always been gray, silent, boring. And then she arrived, rolling in a black G-Wagon, sharp and calculating. And in that instant, I knew my life was about to be rewritten. "You're coming with me," she said, voice smooth but deadly. I wanted to run, but the thought of being noticed, really seen, froze me. She smiled, a dangerous curve, and I realized this was no ordinary woman. She was a storm, and I, an unnoticed boy, was about to be a lightning. I gasped. I had been invisible for so long that people didn't even bother to ignore me. They just walked past. Street vendors, school kids, even stray dogs. Being unnoticed was my superpower and my curse. But in our world, my invisibility was exactly what she wanted. She called herself Lady Verona, a member of something called the Sisterhood of Ivory Crowns. Sounds fancy, but she made it clear. She controlled everything, from banks to scandals, and she had a weapon. I was it. My training began the next day. First lesson, posture. Stand like you own the room, even if the room hates you, she said, flicking a gold ring against the table. I stumbled, spilling my water on her designer shoes. She didn't yell. She laughed. That laugh, dangerous and sharp, told me she enjoyed my failures, and I was hooked. Hooked on surviving her, and maybe, just maybe, on becoming her weapon. Training wasn't easy. Lady Verona didn't just teach me to fight or run. She taught me to enter hearts and minds. She called it seduction as strategy. I had to smile at the right time, ask the right questions, and notice the tiniest weakness in a person's armor. At first, I was awkward, tripping over words, sweating under expensive chandeliers, but she encouraged failure as long as I learned. One evening, she showed me how to charm a powerful woman at a party. She said, "Notice her shoes, her bag, her laugh. Find her crack, then slip inside it." I stared at her, amazed. She was serious. I was about to become a weapon, one that fought with charm, not guns. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I laughed. Me, a poor boy from nowhere, learning to destroy women who had everything. "Tomorrow, you meet your first target," Lady Verona said, sipping champagne like it was water. "She's a real estate queen, cold, ruthless, but everyone has a weakness." My heart thumped. I wasn't just a toy boy anymore. I was a spy. My mission, charm her, gather secrets, and return. No one would suspect a boy like me. I imagined walking into her mansion in a sleek suit, the kind I had only seen in magazines. Outside, her driveway was crowded with shiny G-Wagons and Lamborghinis. I gulped. This was no playtime. But as Lady Verona handed me a list of her favorite scents and hobbies, I smiled. This was the beginning. My life had become a game, and the stakes were higher than I had ever imagined.
The mansion was enormous, each room a display of wealth and arrogance. I walked in like I belonged, smiling at staff, nodding politely to security. I had memorized her favorite perfume, her laugh, even the way she stirred her tea. Lady Verona's words echoed in my head. Find her crack. It didn't take long. She was distracted by a heated phone call, her golden bracelet catching the sunlight. I complimented her subtly, laughed at her jokes, and slowly she leaned closer. I had entered her space, her mind, her defenses. By the end of the evening, I had her voice notes and some internal emails, proof that she wasn't untouchable. And I realized with a thrill that I was already addicted to this dangerous game. Lady Verona taught me to drive her G-Wagon. Fast, precise, commanding. She said, "Your weapon isn't just charm." She gripped the steering wheel of her matte black beast. It's power, control, confidence. I swerved through traffic, nearly crashing into a posh Bentley. She laughed, hands in the air. "Slow down, never!" Confidence, remember? Haha. I laughed too. Confidence felt foreign, yet intoxicating. The car roared, and I imagined myself owning the streets, just like I would soon own secrets and hearts. I was no longer invisible. I was a moving force, sleek and dangerous. And every time I glanced at her from the passenger seat, I realized I wanted to impress her, not just survive. Training wasn't all seriousness. One afternoon, Lady Verona made me cook. I burnt the pasta, spilled wine on her Persian rug, and tripped over a chair. She didn't scream. She smirked. "You'll either kill them with charm or kill me with incompetence," she said. I laughed, embarrassed, but she joined in. Ha! Even in her dangerous world, there was room for comedy. Sometimes, while planning infiltration missions, she would mimic the richest women we were about to seduce, exaggerating their flaws. I couldn't help laughing. It was strange, balancing deadly strategy with ridiculous humor, but I learned. To survive, I had to adapt, to entertain, and to seduce. Lady Verona handed me a dossier. 5 women, each powerful, ruthless, and extremely wealthy. Each had assets, secrets, weaknesses. She said, "You go one by one, charm, manipulate, and return." I felt the weight of responsibility, but also excitement. Finally, I mattered. I studied each profile obsessively, from the heartless oil tycoon to the manipulative politician. I learned their routines, favorite restaurants, and hobbies. By the end of the night, my notebook was full, my mind spinning, and as I looked at my reflection in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The boy staring back wasn't just attractive, he was dangerous. The first target was at a charity gala in Victoria Island. I wore a tailored suit, my hair perfectly slicked. Lady Verona whispered in my ear, "Charm, observe, exit, nothing more." I nodded, heart racing. The city lights glimmered like stars reflecting on the Lagos lagoon. I walked in confidently, smiling at elites. She was there, sipping champagne, laughter sharp. I approached, complimented, teased lightly, and she responded immediately. Within minutes, I had subtle insights into her finances and her contacts. My first mission was a success, and yet I couldn't help but laughing at the absurdity. Haha, a boy from nowhere charming the untouchable. This was life, and it was deliciously dangerous. Returning to Lady Verona's penthouse, I handed her the gathered intel. She examined it, nodding. She said, "Not bad. You are learning fast." I grinned. Praise from her felt like sunlight piercing through years of gray invisibility. Then she smirked. "But don't get comfortable. The real challenge is controlling yourself. The women we target will try to seduce you, manipulate you, scare you. Your job is to remain untouchable, emotionally, mentally, physically." I swallowed hard, realizing that charm could be both a weapon and a trap. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I laughed nervously. The next night, I attended a dinner for the tech billionaire, a cold woman rumored to have a secret private island. She eyed me suspiciously, her silver necklace catching candlelight. I smiled, poured her wine, complimented her choice of music. Her guard stared, but I moved like a shadow, confident yet unobtrusive.
She laughed at one of my jokes, and I felt a small victory. Lady Verona had trained me well. I could anticipate reactions, steer conversations, and stayed 2 steps ahead. By dessert, I had subtle hints about her offshore accounts. I left before anyone noticed my exit, adrenaline mixing with amusement. I was learning fast, and it felt intoxicating. Lady Verona drilled observation skills relentlessly. "Notice the small things," she said. "A twitch, a smile, the way someone taps their fingers. That's your doorway." I began seeing patterns everywhere. Drivers, assistants, even the expensive cars outside, each revealed secrets about their owners. One afternoon, she made me follow a target through Lekki, taking note of her every stop. I nearly fell asleep behind the wheel of a rented Range Rover, but every blink taught me something new. I realized that observation was as powerful as seduction. And while I struggled to keep up, a part of me began enjoying the thrill of being noticed at last. Even in missions, comedy slipped through. During a rooftop stakeout, I slipped on a loose tile and nearly fell into a swimming pool. Lady Verona, watching through binoculars, burst out laughing. "Your lucky charm works even when you are a klutz," she teased. I laughed, red-faced, realizing that danger and comedy could coexist. It lightened the darkness, reminded me that I wasn't just a weapon, I was human. And Lady Verona's laughter, sharp and warm, became strangely comforting, even as I learned to destroy powerful women. The oil tycoon target wasn't as naive as I thought. She hinted she knew I was gathering information. My heart raced, but I maintained composure. Lady Verona had drilled me endlessly. Keep the mask on. Smile, charm, and deflect. By subtly complimenting her watch and showing genuine interest in her latest acquisition, I turned suspicion into intrigue. She laughed, dropping her guard. That night, I returned home victorious, but shaken. I realized that seduction as a weapon required nerves of steel, and even a tiny mistake could be deadly. Lady Verona taught me the importance of appearance. She said, "Clothes speak before you do," handing me a silk tie and tailored blazer. Each outfit, she explained, sent a subtle message: wealth, confidence, danger. I learned to match each mission with clothing cues: casual charm for the tech billionaire, formal sophistication for the real estate queen. Fashion became strategy, and as I looked at my reflection, I laughed at the boy I had been, a poor, unnoticed nobody. Now, even my shadow screamed power. The politician target invited me to a private dinner. I wore a navy suit, a smirk, and a practiced charm. Her age tried subtle probing, but I deflected effortlessly, steering conversations towards safe topics while gathering sensitive information. The dinner was long, tense, and occasionally hilarious. A waiter tripped over his tray and spilled wine on the politician's lap. She screamed. I helped, and somehow made it seem intentional, but charming. Lady Verona had prepared me for chaos, and as we left, the politician unaware, I realized that charm mixed with timing could be lethal. Lady Verona decided to test me. She invited me to a private room filled with mirrors. She said, "Today, you seduce the reflection," she said cryptically. I laughed, unsure, until she explained, "Control your desires, master your charm, anticipate reactions before they happen." It was grueling. I stumbled, almost faltered, but in the end, I understood. Seduction wasn't just about others. It was mastery of self. I left the room exhausted, laughing at the absurdity, but secretly proud. I was becoming a weapon, sharpened and precise. During a mission, I discovered a rival's assistant secretly opposed her boss. With subtle persuasion, I gained information without raising suspicion. Lady Verona had taught me well. Manipulate not just the target, but the surrounding network. It was thrilling and funny. Me, a boy from nowhere, playing puppet master with billionaires. I realized that alliances, even small ones, could tilt the balance. I laughed silently as I imagined Lady Verona's smirk at my success. Sometimes, I surprised myself by feeling attraction towards a target. Lady Verona warned me, emotion is weakness. But humans were messy, unpredictable. I had to laugh at myself, my heart racing, while I planted subtle lies and stole secrets. During one gala, a brief touch, a lingering glance, it almost ruined everything. I reminded myself to smile, joke, and remain untouchable. It was dangerous, thrilling, and oddly hilarious. My life had become a dance of charm, danger, and laughter, and I was learning the steps fast. By the end of my first missions, I had begun mastering two worlds: the dangerous, ruthless elite and the boy I used to be, lost, invisible, powerless. Lady Verona's training had transformed me. I could charm, manipulate, observe, and exit unnoticed. Or not. I laughed quietly as I watched my reflection in the rearview mirror of a matte black G-Wagon. A boy from nowhere had become a weapon of luxury, charm, and danger. But somewhere, deep down, I wondered who was controlling whom. And in that thought, a dangerous game began. A game that would only get bigger, riskier, and more hilarious.
The real estate queen's mansion gleamed under Lagos lights, a fortress of glass and gold. I walked in, smiling, acknowledging her staff, pretending to belong. Lady Verona's words echoed, "Observe, charm, and exit alive." The house smelled of expensive perfume and power, mixed with fear of outsiders. She laughed at a joke I hadn't fully understood, and I leaned closer, subtle, calm. By the end of dinner, I had her schedule memorized. Her passwords hinted at. Walking out, I slipped on the polished floor, narrowly saving my dignity. I laughed quietly. The life of a weaponized toy boy was dangerous, but amusingly so. Back at Lady Verona's penthouse, she poured red wine into crystal glasses. She said, "Next mission is emotional manipulation. Make them think they are in control while we pull the strings." I sipped nervously, thinking of the politician I had just charmed. We plotted in shadows, reviewing the dossiers, laughing at our own exaggerations. I imagined myself planting subtle lies, causing arguments between billionaires, watching their empires wobble. It was absurd, terrifying, and hilarious. Lady Verona's laughter filled the room as she explained, "Remember, darling, comedy keeps the hunter sane." I nodded, eager and scared. The tech billionaire's office was high up above Victoria Island, screens everywhere, numbers flickering. I walked in wearing a navy suit, confident, calm. She eyed me, calculating, clearly amused by my presence. I complimented her design choices, laughed at her corny jokes, and subtly extracted data she didn't realize she shared. It was exhilarating. I left with a flash drive of critical files, dodging questions with charm. Outside, her driver, a shiny G-Wagon waiting, gave me a suspicious glance. I waved innocently, feeling a thrill. Lady Verona had made a weapon out of a boy from nowhere, and the boy was learning to enjoy his deadly dance. Training took a ridiculous turn one morning when Lady Verona made me dress as a waiter for a social gala. I spilled champagne on a man who looked like he owned half of Lagos. He roared in anger, and I froze. But Lady Verona appeared behind me, whispering, "Smile. Humor is a weapon." I turned the mistake into charm, apologizing theatrically. The man laughed, and suddenly, I realized mistakes could be weaponized too. Comedy wasn't just relief, it was control. And in Lady Verona's world, that was priceless. I discovered a hidden room in one target's mansion, full of confidential files and voice recordings. My heart raced. This was what Lady Verona wanted, total access. I quietly copied files, slipping through corridors with grace I never knew I had. By the time I exited, adrenaline mixed with amusement. I laughed silently, imagining the shock if she discovered a boy like me stealing secrets from my empire. The thrill wasn't just in success. It was in dancing so close to danger and walking away unharmed. The politician loved control, and I used it against her. At a private dinner, I complimented her wardrobe, praised her policies, and subtly planted doubt about her allies. She believed she was influencing me, unaware I was doing the same. As I left, I chuckled. I was supposed to be a toy boy, but I felt like a king of shadows. Every laugh, glance, and word had become my weapon, and each woman unaware of my true power. Lady Verona's plan was working, but I was already thinking bigger. Lady Verona introduced me to the world of private jets and exclusive cars. I slid into a silver G-Wagon, the driver nodding respectfully. I laughed at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Was this still the poor boy from the streets, or a weapon dressed in luxury? We raced through Lekki, music blasting, adrenaline pumping. The world felt absurdly rich and dangerous, and yet I loved every second. This was training, survival, and comedy rolled into one. A chaotic, expensive playground where I was finally noticed. Observation became an obsession. Every gesture, laugh, or twitch revealed hidden truths. Lady Verona smiled at my progress. "You're learning to see what others hide, darling," she said. I found myself predicting targets' next moves. At the charity gala, I noticed a subtle nod between two rivals, signaling an alliance. I laughed quietly, impressed with myself. The game was dangerous, thrilling, and sometimes funny, like watching animals in a gilded cage, unaware of my plans. At the oil tycoon's mansion, I found her diary, full of secrets and vulnerabilities. I read, memorized, and left, heart racing. Lady Verona had trained me well. Nothing was too small, nothing irrelevant. I laughed quietly as I imagined blackmailing her with nothing more than a few pages. The absurdity of power, how the richest, most ruthless women could be toppled by charm and knowledge, was intoxicating, and I was at the center of it all. During a rooftop escape, a sudden gust almost sent me over the edge. I clutched a railing, heart pounding, and Lady Verona laughed from below. "Grace under pressure, darling," she called. I laughed, half in fear, half in absurd delight. It was strange. Danger and comedy blended seamlessly. I realized I would need humor as much as skill to survive. And so far, I was surviving, laughing, and learning. Two weapons in one, charm and wit. I realized I was changing. By day, the invisible boy. By night, a weapon of charm and deception. Lady Verona noticed my smirk and raised an eyebrow. "Enjoying the power?" she asked. I nodded. Each mission gave me more secrets than the last, and I began thinking, what if I kept some for myself? A dangerous thought, but tempting. The world was rich, corrupt, and hilarious, and I wanted a slice. I lied to a target the first time convincingly, a subtle white lie about her assistant's loyalty, and she fell for it. Lady Verona applauded quietly. "You are learning fast, darling. Keep the mask on." I laughed myself later, thinking about how easy it was to manipulate the mighty. The absurdity wasn't lost on me. How the untouchable could be toppled by a boy from nowhere. Sometimes I felt attraction to a target. It was brief, fleeting, and dangerous. Lady Verona warned me, emotion is a trap. But humans were messy. I laughed at myself for almost forgetting my role, for feeling anything at all. I reminded myself, seduction was a weapon, never pleasure. And yet, the heart was stubborn, teasing me with danger and excitement. Lady Verona drilled me on exits, how to leave a mansion unnoticed, a gala without suspicion, a conversation without regret. I stumbled at first, tripping over heels, knocking over wine bottles, but eventually I became smooth. By the end, I exited like a shadow, invisible yet dangerous, and I laughed quietly. Success had become as addictive as adrenaline. I discovered unexpected helpers, an assistant, a security guard, even a rival's cousin. All could be persuaded with charm and observation. Lady Verona smiled at my growing network. I laughed privately, realizing a poor boy from nowhere had become a puppet master in a world of billionaires. Comedy and danger blended seamlessly in my new life. One target realized she might be manipulated. She smiled at me like a cat playing with a mouse. I laughed quietly, stepping carefully, using charm to deflect suspicion. It was exhilarating, the thrill of risk, danger,
and the absurdity of outsmarting someone so powerful. I was learning the art of survival with a grin and a heart full of adrenaline. Every outfit, every detail became a strategy. Lady Verona reminded me, clothes speak louder than words. I laughed at my transformation, from rags to tailored suits, from ignored boy to weapon of charm and wit. Luxury had become my armor, humor my shield, and observation my sword. I was unstoppable, or so I thought. During a gala, a waiter tripped, spilling drinks on a billionaire's lap. Chaos erupted. I used it to my advantage, diverting attention and gaining access to our private files. Lady Verona's laughter echoed in my memory. Danger and comedy, I realized, were inseparable in our world. I laughed quietly as I left, victorious. Driving through Lekki in a matte black G-Wagon, I reviewed stolen files, power, wealth, secrets, all at my fingertips. I laughed quietly, imagining the faces of those who underestimated me. Lady Verona's words came to mind. Control the information, control the world. I felt it, exhilarated, and absurdly amused at my rise from invisible boy to king of secrets. I realized I was no longer just Lady Verona's weapon. I was learning to be my own player. Small choices, little secrets kept for myself, gave me thrill and control. I laughed quietly as I imagined keeping the richest, most ruthless women in Lagos dancing to my tune. The game was bigger than I imagined, and the boy from nowhere had just found a taste of freedom.
The oil tycoon, suspicious and cunning, invited me to her penthouse under the guise of reconciliation. I entered confidently, dressed sharply, exuding charm. Her G-Wagon sparkled below, a reminder of her wealth. I complimented her decor, certainly probed her finances, and noted the tension in her staff. She was trying to manipulate me, but I stayed calm. I left with more secrets than she realized, laughing quietly at the absurdity of a boy from nowhere outsmarting a billionaire. Lady Verona received an encrypted message from the Sisterhood of Ivory Crowns. They were intrigued by my progress. I peeked at her reaction, sharp, amused, dangerous. She explained, "They think you are a harmless toy boy, but we know better." I laughed quietly. The thought of being underestimated by the richest women in Africa and controlling them through charm was deliciously ironic. The real estate queen caught wind of my infiltration. She invited me to a brunch, pretending innocence. I smiled, sliding into the G-Wagon with practiced ease, my heart pounding with excitement. During conversation, I subtly steered discussions to gather more information, laughing internally at how easily she revealed her strategies. The game was dangerous, but I was becoming addicted to it. The politician invited me to a private dinner. Her mansion gleamed, guarded by security and expensive SUVs. I moved through the room like I owned it, certainly reading every gesture. She tried to seduce me emotionally, but I remained untouchable. I left with valuable secrets, and the absurdity of manipulating the mighty without them noticing made me laugh quietly. Power had never felt so thrilling. I started keeping small secrets for myself, building leverage. Lady Verona noticed my smirk, but said nothing. I was playing both sides, and the thrill was intoxicating. One night, reviewing stolen data in a G-Wagon, I laughed quietly. The boy from nowhere was now a double agent, moving freely between billionaires and the sugar mom. The game had grown bigger and more dangerous. During a rooftop stakeout, a pigeon attacked me mid-observation. I screamed, flailed, and almost fell, but managed to cling to the railing. Lady Verona, watching from below, laughed uncontrollably. The absurdity reminded me that danger and humor were inseparable in this world. I laughed quietly, adrenaline mixing with relief, realizing that survival required both charm and comedy. The tech billionaire had a secret, a hidden affection for a childhood friend. I exploited it subtly, gathering access codes and private conversations. She smiled at me, unaware that I had manipulated her emotions. I left the mansion laughing quietly, thrilled by the power of observation and charm. The absurdity of it all never failed to amuse me. At a charity auction, I spilled a drink on a rival's gown, creating chaos. While she was fussing with her ruined outfit, I accessed her confidential files unnoticed. Lady Verona's lessons were clear. Distraction is as lethal as seduction. I chuckled quietly. I was learning to manipulate events as much as people, and the absurdity made the dangerous game even more exhilarating. A target tried to tail me after a meeting. I sped through Lagos in a matte black G-Wagon, weaving past traffic, heart pounding. She struggled to keep up in her armored SUV. I laughed quietly, exhilarated. Lady Verona had trained me well. Speed, charm, and cunning were weapons. The city lights reflected off the cars, making the chase feel absurdly cinematic. Under the Lagos skyline, I reviewed stolen files in a quiet penthouse. Each secret was a weapon, each whisper a threat. I laughed quietly at how a boy from nowhere had become the puppet master. Lady Verona's training had turned me into something dangerous, elegant, and oddly hilarious. Lady Verona challenged me to manipulate two rivals at the same event. I entered, confident, observing, smiling. Each interaction was precise. Charm, probe, laugh. By midnight, both targets were subtly influenced. I left victorious, laughing quietly at my own cleverness. I was no longer just her weapon. I was her equal in cunning. I discovered the rival's assistant secretly opposed her boss. Subtle persuasion turned her into an ally. It was thrilling and funny. I, a boy from nowhere, creating alliances in the world of billionaires. Lady Verona watched impressed, but silent. I laughed quietly, enjoying my new power. A brief attraction to a target almost compromised the mission. I reminded myself, emotion is weakness. I laughed quietly at my own foolishness. The boy from nowhere had to remain untouchable, charming, and lethal, even when tempted by fleeting feelings. Every outfit became a weapon. Lady Verona had taught me, clothes speak louder than words. I smiled in the mirror, adjusting a tailored blazer. I laughed quietly at how a poor boy had transformed into a tool of charm and control. Fashion, humor, and intelligence. My armor. During a rooftop mission, a gust of wind almost sent me flying. Lady Verona laughed from below. I laughed too, realizing danger and comedy were inseparable. The absurdity of surviving while manipulating billionaires was addictive. Observation became obsession. Every gesture, laugh, and twitch revealed truths. At a gala, I predicted moves before they happened, quietly laughing at the rich and powerful, unaware of my insights. The game was thrilling. I found the rival's private diary, full of secrets. Memorizing and using them gave me power. I laughed quietly at the absurdity. A boy from nowhere toppling empires with charm, humor, and knowledge. Encrypted messages from the Sisterhood of Ivory Crowns revealed their interest in me. They underestimated me, thinking I was a toy boy. I smiled, quietly laughing at the irony. I was a weapon, a double agent, and growing more dangerous by the day. I began keeping secrets from Lady Verona, subtly playing my own game. The thrill of independence was intoxicating. I laughed quietly, imagining the chaos if anyone discovered my plans. The hunter was becoming the master. The sugar mom wanted power. The society wanted control. The rivals wanted revenge. I wanted freedom. I looked in the mirror, laughing quietly. A boy from nowhere had become a weapon, a puppet master, and maybe, just maybe, a king. Lady Verona had trained me, but in the end, I had trained myself. The game was mine.
Every story hides a lesson. What did you learn from this one? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, follow, and stay tuned for the next story.